Now there's space. Lovely dummy from Taylor. It's Alfonsi. It's Waterman. It's Danielle Waterman.
Hello everyone and welcome to World Rugby's Between the Lines series. Don't forget you can keep watching right here, right now. Alternatively, we've got it rolling out via our World Rugby podcast as well. And this week's guest, well, we just keep rolling through them, the biggest names in the sport. And it is a very good morning to a lady who has won a World Cup. He's one of the finest ever to have worn the England jersey. Danielle Waterman, where are you and what is going on?
Well, I'm definitely not in the UK at the moment. I'm actually over in the amazing sunny Italy. So I thought I'd come outside and show you some of the surroundings. But I'm over here coaching the men's sevens squad that I've been working with the last couple of years. And it's awesome. Yeah.
It looks glorious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have picked a nice spot, but it's we've been here a few days and we did our first big training session yesterday. Yeah, I think it was a bit of a shock to the system for the boys that have gone through lockdown, started a little bit of pre-season with their 15 squad and then bam, straight into some sevens.
Well, while you get cozied up on what appears to be the set of Eat, Pray, Love, let's get into the timing. Is perfect for our chat because it is this week, 6 years since you claimed the biggest prize in the sport. A World Cup win 6 years back, and I loved that you sort of reminded us with your little snapshot from Downing Street. Can we go back 6 years, please, Nolly? Can we go back to times when there was Test rugby being played?
I can't believe it was 6 years, to be honest. And because it's all been a bit crazy, I've gone into full coach mode. I'd actually forgotten the date, so I hadn't even realised until our WhatsApp group is still alive. It's still kicking, just 6 years on. And Sophie Hemming put a little reminder on the group saying, Happy World Cup Day, girls. What's even more special is Heather Fisher was my roommate at the World Cup, one of my best friends, and I've actually brought her over to Italy. So we managed to spend the day together over here. And yeah, it's a little bit crazy when you reflect back on how long ago that was, but also and what's changed in the game, especially for the women's. And also just where we are in our lives. You know, I'm retired. Heather's still holding on with her fingernails. Old lady in the seven squad. But yeah, it was a pretty special moment, and it definitely changed history for I think women's rugby to finally get the cup out of the Southern Hemisphere.
And what other ways do you think that tournament itself changed the path and the direction of the women's code?
I think the French did an amazing job at filling the stadiums, and we all know that, you know, we're looking at rugby now and it doesn't look the same because those stadiums are empty in the Northern Hemisphere, and you don't get the atmosphere coming through on the TV. And I think it definitely changed how fans got to experience the game back at home. That coupled with the fact that there was just some amazing rugby, some incredible test matches. There was iconic wins. So yeah, a little shout out to the Irish for beating the Black Ferns. First time in their history to do that, which meant they didn't come through into the knockouts. We faced Canada in the pools. We drew with them in the pool stages. So to then play them in the final was, it was interesting, I think, to do that within a World Cup. But I think, the coverage and just the atmosphere that was created over there was awesome, and just set the standard for what we expect for women's rugby now.
What did it do in terms of lifting the profile of a number of those English women who were running around doing great things and who, to be honest, have been doing wonderful things in those jerseys for a long period of time?
I think finally there was a group of 4 of us that had been to 2 World Cups before and lost in 2 World Cup finals. So to finally go one better was, people ask kind of how did it feel when the final whistle went? And to be fair, for me, it was just relief. I was like, finally, we've got the gold. I'm finishing the tournament on a win. I think to be able to do it alongside those players, so Rocky Clark, Maggie Alfonsi, Tamara Taylor and Rachel Burford, so there was 5, actually was super special. And also we kind of represented for England the players that had gone before, and the standards that the Red Roses had set for us as young players. So that was pretty cool. I think Emily Scarrett was just insane in the tournament. She put the standard with regard to goal kicking. She was the top point scorer in the tournament, came home and got a number of accolades on a personal level. And then as a team, we won BBC Sports Personality Team of the Year. To go up on stage all dressed up as a squad was a huge statement in the UK. And I think it was the start of quite a lot of successful female team wins for England as well, which is pretty cool.
How much of it can you remember now, that final game of the tournament? How much of it stays with you? And what are your specific recollections about what played out in the middle?
There's only a few things I actually remember. So before every game and test match, my mum always tries to work out where we're going to be singing the anthem and where we're going to be looking so that she can be there and hopefully catch my eye. I was actually stood between Maggie and Rachel for the anthem, so we kind of got all set up, and they're pretty big shouldered, so I had to like wiggle my way in, make sure I had enough room next to Maggie's biceps. And I looked up, and the first person I saw was my mum. I had no idea where she was sat, and I just looked at her, and she gave me the biggest smile, and it just, I don't know, it kind of set the tone. And then the next things I really remember, at one point I went into, I think Skaz has carried the ball down one of the touch lines. I went in to clear out, and she's got massive size 10 feet, and one of her boots hit me in the face. She split my face open, but at I couldn't feel that. I could just feel that my eye was really sore, and the physio came on and said, "Oh, we've got blood." And I was like, "Oh my God, there's blood coming out of my eye. Like, what's going on?" He was like, "No, Molly, you just have a little cut." So I had to go off, and I ran off and was super brave because I had stitches without anaesthetic. So yeah, I had a couple of stitches and went back on. And apart from that, that was it really. I remember, well, there was one moment I remember quite well.
Hang on a second. Are you letting me bring in the vision, or me bring in the try that you score? It's funny that we can now look at this because we actually had Maggie Alfonsi on the World Rugby Between the Lines vodcast the other week, and she was like, it's probably the only pass I've ever thrown. So,
100%.
Well, should we take a look at it just to walk down memory lane? So this is you in the World Cup final. Run us through it.
So if you can see, I'm actually quite far away from play because I wasn't expecting Mara to do the most ridiculous dummy. And then when Maggie got the ball, I genuinely shouted louder than everybody in the stadium because I know she doesn't really like to pass. And I was like, "You've got an MBE, you're one of the best known player in the world. There is no way you're scoring in a World Cup final as well. So give me the ball on the wing."
I think it's more, I don't know that she doesn't, it's just that she didn't want to pass, but she said that she doesn't know how to pass.
Well, previously in our in loads of test matches, we'd taken the mick. We talk about depth in rugby. I wasn't expecting to be in that phase, so I was so deep. I was like holding. I was like, "Oh my God, they've made a line break. I need to go." So as I got the ball, I was literally at full pace. So yeah, I think I was fortunate to carry. I mean, Maggie's pass wasn't perfect. It was a little bit here. We won't give her too much credit, but I think when I scored, I genuinely didn't know what to do. I was like, and so I'm like looking, and I just like throw the ball in the air.
And then the closing stages. So you're on the run into the final moments of the game. Let's get your take on what was going through your mind here as you closed in on full time.
So actually, just before this, I'd taken a high ball and got a dead leg. So I was limping about. As the girls ran on, you could kind of see me just in the back. I just dropped to my knees. And there was this jubilation, but for me, it was about relief. Just mad. I get goosebumps watching it.
So you should, though. Like, what goes through your mind when you've scaled the world? You've got to the summit.
So that moment there was pretty special. Get a bit emotional because Alex was someone that I coached at 17 years old. So so to see her go through being someone that had committed to rugby at such a young age, and then to be there at the World Cup 4 years later, she's an incredible player. And I think winning, we were such a close team on and off the field. We'd worked so hard at not just being the best rugby players, but genuinely being a really good team. And so I don't think any of us really truly knew the scale of it. It was just like winning a tournament with your best mates, whether it's a five-a-side or, this just happened to be a World Cup final. And you don't really understand the scale of it until, for me, it wasn't until we got home and, we were in all the press, and we got home and to Twickenham, and there was all of the staff there, and and the press conferences, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, this was a pretty big deal. It wasn't just winning anything with my mates.
No, it was a little bit bigger than five-a-side at the local park. And part of that, obviously, is the momentum that you pick up on the other side, which includes that historic doubleheader, the Barbarians doubleheader at Twickenham. Can you run us through what that occasion was like?
Everything I ever wanted it to be. It was actually my last ever game of rugby. I think the Barbarians was always something that I always dreamed that women would have it, because it just represents all of the amazing parts of rugby. And what was even more special, so I was with Rocky Clark and Tamara Taylor, so two of the players that had played England for the longest time with me for 15 years. But I actually started in England Academy at 15 years old with Rocky. She was my first friend within England. And also on the other side of it, we had Fifa Masili and Linda Atunu, who had played for New Zealand, absolute legends in the game for 15 years. So for 15 years we'd battled. 15 years Rocky had literally gone head to head with Fee, and we'd never even really spoken. And so, because there was just such a rivalry between us and New Zealand, to be able to be teammates, to be able to step out on the field together, to have the week build up. Justine Lavier is crazy back row for the Black Ferns. We got on like a house on fire. And I also, played so many test matches against Anna, who was our coach, Lisa Burgess. She was my teammate at Clifton, and played against her in the Six Nations. So every single connection within that team was some part of my career. And then to do it at Twickenham against England. Unfortunately, I now know what it's like to play against England. It's not very nice. They're pretty fast and strong, especially in like ridiculous heat, and when you've had quite a few beers in the week. And then the other part of it was we also got to spend a decent amount of time with the guys squad, and it was just brilliant. It was just really cool, loads of fun. And everything that the Barbarians is, it definitely was, and we ramped it up to be a little bit more. You
kind of skipped over that week build up, because Barbarians tours are notorious for the lead up to the game. It's almost like the game is an afterthought because of the bonding that goes on in the lead up to it. How wild, on a scale of 1 to 10, did it get in the run up to that match?
So the problem is, for most of my career, I've never really drunk at all. So even just a couple of beers, I'm like, woo! So it doesn't need to be too wild on normal people's scale, I don't think. But we just had loads of fun. We had a pretty big evening the first night, and went for food. Fiona Stockley had done such a great job at organising loads of different events. We did some stuff with the different sponsors, and we went and played touch with the boys, and one of our players skinned one of theirs. It was literally amazing. It couldn't have been any better. Tova Dirk.
Are you going to name names?
Oh no, sorry. Jasmine Joyce just absolutely burned one of the boys. It was class. He wasn't expecting it at all. I can't even remember who it was, but it was someone that definitely shouldn't have got stepped by a woman. It's the small things that it's the people that you're with. It's not necessarily what you're doing, but we did a skit night. So we were in small groups and we had to perform and do little bits and pieces. So we had raps, we had dances, we had kind of all sorts of things. The staff got involved. Yeah, it was a good laugh. It was good fun.
I bet it was.
We managed to have a few beers in Richmond.
There you go. Just play it completely down. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 62, but we'll just call it a 1. Hey, you touched on the coaching at the start of our chat. Can we go into that a little bit more? So you're in Italy at the moment with Heather Fisher, a woman who we've seen pulling teams apart at 7s and 15s level for such a long time now. So you're with the Italian Cavaliers? Is it 7s or 15s? Give us some more insight into what you're up to.
Yeah, so the Cavaliers have been around for 20 years, and it was set up by the fire service and some guys that were involved in that. And actually, my boyfriend played 20 years ago with them, and they have been playing since then in the World Police and Fire Games, which happens every 2 years. I didn't even know about the tournament, and then when I went to China last year, there's over 70 countries, 60 different sports. It's the third biggest sporting event in the world, and
Wow.
yeah, we only went and won the gold medal. So in the rugby sevens, which was just incredible. We beat France in the final, who I think were reigning champions for about 10, 12 years. So it was a pretty big deal.
Wow.
And even better that they had a young female coach with a panda hat to do it, because it was so hot. And this camp, we were supposed to be coming over. The players were going to be coming to London to play this year. We wanted to continue the momentum, and unfortunately with COVID it had to be cancelled. So we decided that Simone, my boyfriend, and I would come over and run a training camp over here for them. It's pretty special and probably pretty unique at the moment that a woman is coaching a men's side that is at the level that they are. And so I decided that I also wanted to bring over a strength and conditioning coach to help support me and also deliver some kind of CPD, some education around strength and conditioning from a current player's perspective as well. Heather, who's qualified in strength and conditioning. She has a master's. She works as a PT. She works one-to-one with, and also in all sorts of different sports. So yeah, she's awesome off field. And when I gave her the program yesterday to say, look, this is what I want from you today for the fitness, she was like, oh my God, this is me. The players are going to be smashed. And some of the players thought, they were like, oh. They're incredible group. It's a brilliant challenge for me. When I first coached in China, I was really nervous because I'd not really ever worked with a guys team in the build up to a tournament before. But they were really, really respectful, worked incredibly hard. And actually, why was I bothered that I was a woman and they were guys? Like, it kind of proved that if you're good at what you do and you work hard for each other, actually you can be successful, and it can be brilliant fun as well. So yeah, it's been a really good thing to look forward to in lockdown. And as you can see, it's a pretty nice setting.
Yeah, that'll do on the setting front. Tell me, is this a taste that you're getting with a view to increasing the coaching back in the UK? What's the plan?
So I've always done coaching pretty much alongside my professional with a little P career, because we didn't get paid for a vast amount of the time I spent with England. I've actually just about finished my level 4 coaching qualification, and I've been running the WASP's Girls Academy Centre of Excellence over the last couple of years. So I have had my hand in with coaching. I don't think I'm going to go into it full time just yet, because it's so difficult to balance. You know, if you're coaching, you've got to be available at the weekends for games, and I'm also trying to work on my punditry and my commentary career. So at the moment, I'm enjoying that, and just doing little bits of coaching is enjoyable and a good challenge.
What would be the dream result, though? So let's just say that there's a way that you can balance your punditry, you do that midweek or wherever, and you can take a full run up and a full swing at it, where would you like to be doing that, and who with?
My gosh, what a question at 8 a.m. I think for me, I've actually loved working. I love coaching girls, I think, and women. I think it's a really good challenge, but it's very, very different to coaching guys. And I've loved the challenge of working with the guys over here. I've also really enjoyed sevens coaching. I've predominantly done a lot of the work that I've done in 15s, even though I've had a reasonable career in sevens as well. So yeah, I think there aren't many women coaching at the top at the moment. So it would be pretty cool to maybe be one of those later on in my career. But coaching is so tough. You know, it's players think that they can go from playing into coaching and it just be a really smooth transition. And it's not. You know, you're constantly learning. You're basically chucked at the bottom of the pile and you've got to scramble your way through and find your way. But I've really enjoyed the challenge of this. I think it's definitely brought a different side out, used my brain in a different way, which I think is always good. And I would 100% encourage any players that are still playing, if you can manage to get away and have a little bit of time away from the Xbox, go and do a little bit of coaching. And also different age groups, different, men, women, 7s, 15s, tag, touch. Because if you can coach and you know how to explain something, then it will probably help with your career as well.
All right. Well, let me ask you this then. What's harder to do, coach or be a commentator / pundit?
So in China, coaching, it was awful because I couldn't do anything. I was like, I was trying not to scream and shout. I didn't want to be one of those coaches. I think there's such different pressures. You know, I've loved the challenge of commentary because I've done actually more in the men's game, but you get to express all of that love for the game. You know, you're someone that I've looked to in the sevens in terms of just bringing a game to life for people and making it so much more enjoyable. The problem is when you're new to commentary, it's really difficult to just be yourself. You kind of try and be who you think people want you to be or think what they want to hear. So yeah, like being able to relax and finding your feet like that way has definitely taken a little bit of time. But coaching is different because you get to really challenge players and see them go on a journey, not just as an individual but as a team, and I love that. And it's not just about the playing, it's about the confidence to speak in front of a group, you know, the smile that they have when they do something that they didn't ever think that they could achieve, or as a team they pull something off and you're like, where did that come from? You know, like just the confidence to just go and play. So yeah, I don't think I've answered that. I don't think I've answered your question, but I've said what's great about both.
I will say this: you're getting very good at your commentary if you manage to dance around the question like that and have me still going, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously both are going very well for you at the moment. Hey, speaking of going well, England will be in the frame as potential favourites for the World Cup next year, 2021, New Zealand. Can we have a quick look ahead? I mean, I know there's so much to go in terms of the COVIDs and all that sort of stuff, but let's say that everything is back to normal ahead of that next year. How big is the World Cup going to be in New Zealand, and who have you got lined up as teams that will go deep?
It's going to be massive. It's the first time it's been down in the Southern Hemisphere, and I think there is a huge appetite for women's rugby down there. It was interesting call to go with New Zealand over Australia, but I think what's super important for the women's is that you do have, and with the men's, is that you do have teams going as far as possible that are at home. And I think in New Zealand, you know, they're pretty much guaranteed, or maybe guaranteed is guaranteed even a thing in World Cups. I'm not sure. 2014 proved that it wasn't. But they will be huge contenders. The fact that their 7 stars are getting to play 15s at the moment, as an English player watching from afar, you're thinking, oh no, they don't need any help. They don't want and so you know that I think the fact that they're playing sooner than every other nation is definitely a help for them. And because of the delay with Tokyo, there's only 40 days between the sevens and then having to potentially try and transition into 15s. It would have been really difficult, whereas now they've got a bit of a taste of it. Selectors can see who are going to be putting their hand up as well. So yeah, I think New Zealand are clearly going to be in a good place. I think England, current ranked world number 2, they've done the job on France in the Six Nations. They're in a good place. But I think France are going to be a different story to what we've seen over the last couple of years. They have some incredible rugby players. Bourdin is one of the most exciting 9-10 players. I like to see her at 9 personally, but I think she will really set the tournament alight. But yeah, I think the biggest thing at the moment isn't necessarily the tournament there, it's who's going to be at the tournament, because we've got 4 teams battling it out for the European spot at the moment, with Spain, Italy, Ireland and Scotland. And Italy are ranked highest, so they're ranked 5th. But I don't think you can call any of that. I think it's going to be really, really challenging.
Look, if you've got time, maybe you can just put your hand up to the Italian crew down there and say, "Listen, guys, I can help. You need a hand? I'm here."
Well,
Under Armour, let's go.
Hey, you're fluent. To be fair, that's pretty much the extent of my Italian at the moment. I have told them that I will try and learn a little bit more than just some of the coaching lingo. But yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. And what's really cool is that those teams also, if the games go ahead, it means that they'll have a decent amount of games in a World Cup year as well, for the ones that qualify for the World Cup. I hope that the New Zealand public really get behind all of the games. I really don't want them just to be going to the New Zealand games. I want them to be going to the tournament, because in France, that was what made it so good. It wasn't just when the French played, it was when every single team played. That means that all of the players got to experience playing in full stadiums and the noise and the atmosphere. So they were really up for it. We got some brilliant rugby. The tournament next year is longer, so there is a gap. But instead of playing every 4 days, there's a week between the knockout stages, and for the first time ever, we've also got quarterfinals. So we've normally gone pool stages, semi-final, final. And now with a quarterfinal, I think it's given other people the opportunity to play another game of high-class rugby. And as we've seen in the men's, maybe we're going to see some upsets from a knockout stage, which are pretty cool.
It'd be awesome. I'm as excited as you are around seeing that play out in this part of the world next year. I think we better let you go, Coach. I think you better get back to the crew and get the whip cracking alongside Heather Fisher.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to get fined because I'm late for breakfast and wearing the wrong T-shirt. But hey, I'll try and blag it. I'll blame you, Shawnee.
I think is it mi dispiace to say I'm sorry from memory? It's something like that. Run with that and see where that lands.
Yeah. I'll try my best.
Okay, Danielle Waterman, thank you so much for joining World Rugby's Between the Lines, and we'll be checking in with you again, I'd say sooner rather than later, and have fun on the coaching front.
Awesome. Cheers, Shawnee.